Cable Tech Expo with the SCTE CEO, Mark Dzuban. And this is a great opportunity for us to explore some of the new things that are happening at SCTE. I don't know, Mark, every time I see you, it seems like there's some new amazing amount of agendas and things that you put on your plate. It just seems like SCTE has taken a much larger role in the industry than we've ever seen before. And we're sitting here amidst a lot of equipment and apparatus that has something to do with one of those initiatives, with you call service continuity.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about what's represented here and what you're doing that gives that term some meaning and substance.
Sure. And just maybe a little background on the origin of this. Every year, it's our objective to better understand through partnerships with the senior leadership, the CTO community, have a CTO advisory group. What are the problems we're trying to solve, and how does SCT play a role to make a material difference in how we drive those solutions to the community and scale? So I talk about scale as we have approximately 100,000 technical employees in our cable community. SCTE is the applied science group that really packages the solutions and emulates them and drives several channels to drive transfer knowledge. What are those solutions? How do we do it? Expo is one of those. We have a lot of training. Expo is really where you can touch it. It's a lot of hands-on. This particular sector of business continuity is about a lot of learning from Sandy, from Katrina, and elsewhere, that our industry has evolved significantly in a higher level of service relative to what we carry. As an example, wireless backhaul. You'll see a lot of weather channel information when there's a hurricane or a storm. Folks are glued to their TV. There's a lot of internet access and messaging that is over our networks. I mean, just significant amount of interface and communications with the public. So our need to sustain our operations during critical times is becoming more and more important. So what we've done here, and I'm very proud of the operating companies, you'll see certainly Comcast, Time Warner, and Cox and others, they're saying, here's how we're doing it, and by the way, here's what we've learned. So as an example, you see behind me approximately 1,000 gallons of fuel. We all know that when the power goes out and out for days, you can't pump fuel, the gas stations are out and no access. Well, the maintenance vehicles still have to perform. They have to get access, they have to operate, they have generators on them. We have to put generators on the network, they have to be refueled. So fuel is really, in essence, the key to getting access and performing this maintenance work, returning active network, and delivering service back to our customers.
And I noticed the truck over here is full of generators, so
it's related to the fuel.
Is a huge thing.
It is.
And it's interesting because are you encouraging, and it's part of this initiative, to get cable companies to really think about creating these or having these kinds of fleets available for these circumstances?
Yeah, think about our industry from a hardworking, very innovative group. The greatest thing we can do is share thinking, right? It doesn't happen in a dark room without lights and without windows. It happens in a community. This is the annual community event that's sharing the innovation that's taking place to solve significant problems, that these solutions will benefit the community as a whole. And we're discovering with a relatively large number of countries, we'll find out in the next day or two. Last year we had over 60 countries. We believe it's going to be the same. So North America is the center of gravity around a lot of innovation, but also there's a lot of our partners on a global basis that are visiting us. And you see these displayed. These are the product of saying, hey, what did we learn in Katrina? What did we learn in Sandy? Actually, the impact of Sandy was reduced to a great extent by what Time Warner had prepared for. So you see the positive impact. And now they did a good job of saying, what can we do better, smarter? As an example, what Time Warner did with charging. The public only had access. The phone system was down. Some of the wireless systems were down. They were bringing them back up. But there was no place to charge your phones. Power was out for weeks in some cases. I know Time Warner and others set up recharging stations. They didn't charge anybody, set up a generator with a bunch of charging strips. People came over with their little charger.
There's a component to this that's just being on hand as an part of the workforce that's out there helping people deal and cope with the situation, as well as keeping the network up.
Think about it. Our customers are people, right? And a happy customer manifests itself in many ways. One of them is when they're in trouble, the charging station is a little bit a good example of how to help these folks in a time of need.
Yeah. So are there any specific, other than just practices that you're advising and illustrating with things like this, in the way of specifications or protocols that are
Yes.
that are around this business sustainability?
Yes, there is. And if you had heard, John Shantz is now leading our SEMI program that we're changing the name to Energy Management to be much more focused and indicative of what we're doing. SEMI was an acronym. Not everybody was sure what it was. Energy Management is clear now. Energy Management is energy management in crisis. How do we look at our network? As an example, if you have we have a cyber attack or maybe some form of action which takes down our power for a period of time, which is, we all hear about those kinds of threats, right? How do we plan for it? What are those remedies? How do we react? How do we manage fuel consumption? That's all taking place, and these folks are very acute to how do we do that. But think of SCTE as the catalyst and the community by where this comes together. We're the standards body for the industry. We're not the ANSI standards body. We're also where best practices come from and where everybody looks to say, hey, from a community, what do we have from a process perspective and a way to think about this? And those best practices become, hey, I like this, we'll incorporate this in our network. Then SCTE also has working groups that all get together in a collaborative way and from a community to talk about how do we do this better and
of
smarter.
course, energy management has 14 working groups or something.
Yeah.
It's quite an extensive now 3-year project that has already spawned a lot of specifications that go to how to greener operations, energy efficiency, even now to kind of M2M stuff where you're figuring out how to make sure that updates on software don't overwhelm the network and that kind of thing.
Well, I love the conversation. Here's something to think about. One of our standards is called APSIS, Adaptive Power Systems Interface Standard. Think of a network that is transactionally based on energy consumption. That if you don't have any transactions taking place, why are you burning a diesel generator that's generating, or generator system that's generating 4 to 8 megawatts for your data center? There is a mechanism to throttle your energy consumption down based on traffic, and that your system will be alive relative to what it sees it needs from an energy perspective to transact, to provide crucial communications, to provide voice and video that's critical in a time of need to our constituents. That this APSIS is a program where the energy consumption will go from 2 or 3 days of on-site fuel to potentially a week or 2 by managing that traffic.
Now, in that process, you put out some specifications, and now it's a matter of the equipment manufacturers adapting them into their components.
It is. Think of some of the announcements you've heard. Intel. Intel is a significant partner on how to address these kinds of issues. And we've got Aris, we've got Cisco. We look at the manufacturers who incorporate some of the Intel product, and it's coming together where the manufacturers and the operators under John Shantz are providing the guidance. And I think you're going to see something evolve. It's going to be probably around 2017 or 18, where I think the team is going to say, let's evolve the specifications, then look into the evolution of product development. And what do we have is hopefully a significant jump in the technology from an energy perspective, from a delivery sustainability perspective, reliability, all those things we need to make a significant investment in how do we get our network to the next level.
And oh, by the way, that's happening as more and more data center-centric operations become part of it. And so that necessarily feeds into this as a way of really making those transitions as cost-effective as possible.
And think of this as a network, a system-wide. Not just the data centers, but hubs, even terminal equipment. From a business perspective, our business services could be doing the same thing. I mean, we've done a lot of work in fuel cells, photovoltaic, and batteries. As an example, SCTE is a model for some of this thinking. We can run 5 to 7 days, and we're extending that period with no external energy replenishment.
Wow.
We want to go out to 10 days or 2 weeks.
Standard.
And then think of our business services that we're dependent upon for recovery that are failed because the power's out. So we're talking about now helping our customers by having the resources to operate for long periods of time. So if you have a disaster where, as an example, you look at New York, Time Warner was just unbelievable in working in a tough environment. A lot of people couldn't get to the facility because of the flooding. What if you're able to operate from your home and virtually to provide a workforce that could operate very high levels of efficiency in a remote, very long distance, and also long duration of sustainability from powering their wireless facilities.
Yeah, I mean, that truck has everything but the canoes on it for people to get out of their homes.
Yeah, well, think about the truck, how it evolved. And you may have a system like we had in New England 3 or 4 years ago where the ice storm put the network out for a couple of weeks. Yeah. The secondary utility power was just not there. They operate on generators. So now they actually have a good methodology of having the generators and the workforce mobile. They can move them any place in the country. And that this is a response to that experience, and they're continuing to grow it.
Just briefly, I want to touch on this. We're about out of time, but I didn't want to exclude some discussion about the announcement that you made, stepping up your relationship with Cable Labs.
Right.
And I wonder if you can briefly describe what that's about. I mean, you've been very tightly, ever since you came on, certainly, much more coordinated with Cable Labs. Now they're under a new regime, and it seems like you guys have been working very, very much in sync. So what are you doing that's even more of that kind of alliance?
So think of SCTE and Cable Labs from a science perspective of being very much aligned. And take it to the next level. Phil McKinney is a great partner of mine. We don't necessarily talk every day, but kindred spirits that think very much alike. And our mission has been clarified to the point of where I look at Phil as being the visionary for the next application or next wave of revenue and the science that supports it. It used to be a process where they did that in confidentiality, then they turned over a set of specifications. We didn't know much about it, and it was a serial event. My partners within the CTO community said, how can SCTE and Cable Labs work together to shorten that interval? Yeah, we have people stationed at Cable Labs because the relationship is such that as they're developing the definition of the new product or services, we're there partnering because our background, the applied science, is how do you operationalize it? So we're very familiar with the evolution of tools, what tools we have today, and we're actually able to put training material and information. So there's the training piece, but there's informational material. So the technology is so sophisticated, you need a portfolio of information, both directly accessible in your iPad or your handheld device in the field. So we're actually ready to have that available. You see it today in our 3.1 DOCSIS program that was pre-conference. That's a role model. It was packed. That you're going to see that for a lot of new services, a lot of areas we need to develop in a partnership. And it's a good example of, we believe, accelerating networks can now be cut in half relative to this work, and being able to deliver much higher product quality with the customers, so you have less customer dissatisfaction with the rollout of new products, and our sustainability of the products will even be at a higher level to compete in the marketplace.
You know, one of the things that well, obviously you mentioned 3.1. I suppose there's a great incentive right now not to go through what happened with 3.0 in terms of getting that off the ground and bring it to fruition. From everything I hear, this is really moving faster than any DOCSIS protocol ever has. Yeah. From completion of specifications to implementation in hardware to actually doing the aspects you're talking about to get the market ready to roll with it. And we're seeing so many other initiatives that are in high demand now from the standpoint of rollouts, interactive advertising, all the work that you guys have done with Cable Labs in that field. We're seeing ongoing interoperability testing. Some of that seems to, be very methodic and take a long period of time. Will you be moving into any of those areas as far as the actual practical implementations of these things?
Yes. Yeah, if you look at the 3.1 model and why it's moving fast, I have to give a lot of credit to Phil McKinney on focusing on what's critical. You have to have a foundation platform like 3.1 in order to deliver some of those enhanced services. So the focus is on the prior things we need on a foundational basis to be able to deliver some of the other areas. As an example, even IPv6. We need IPv6 in place to scale to deliver some of the things we need to deliver. So Phil's done a good job partnering with our team. What are those critical assets we need in place? Then we can work on the building blocks on top of it. He's also looking at a 5-year out program that, how do we, so we're not in triage all the time, what do we need to do? Now, if you look at 4K and 8K and all the things coming down the pike, 3.1 is going to be critical to making sure we can deliver some of those assets and differentiating service in the marketplace.
That's right.
If you look at some of our competitive folks, they can't deliver the kind of bandwidth we can. They say they can, but I think we are more than capable. The MSO's done a great job at saying, here's our evolution of our networks to meet the demand, and they're all in place. It's a portfolio of building blocks to get to where we need to be to deliver these products.
Well, there's certainly a lot of new moving parts to 3.1 that's going to take some education in the marketplace to figure that out. And then we got CCAP coming along here as in tandem with that. So it's a big changeover to the future.
And think of SCTE as the tool in the marketplace for applied science, because our networks are so complex. The educational process and developmental really requires a large scale ability to bring up the knowledge base of our workforce that we've never seen before.
Right.
And in order to be smart and skillful and deliver a competitive product, that's our goal. And to accelerate it, get it out in front of everybody else, get it fine-tuned, and really make it a material competitive force in the marketplace.
Well, it's a new version of the cable industry on the technical side that we're seeing come to fruition here. It's pretty exciting.
Keep up the energy, don't slow down, and any innovation you have, share it with us, and we'd love to partner with you.
Okay, well, Mark, we'll be watching what happens next.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're a great partner. I appreciate it. Thank you.